In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.
Hey y'all, welcome to the Daily Memphian's Tigers Basketball Podcast. I'm Parth Upadhyaya, the DM's Tigers Basketball beat writer. I'm joined, as always, by John Martin, our college sports columnist here at the Daily Memphian. We've got a lot to get to today. Obviously, Tigers coming off their first loss in about a month to Wichita State on Sunday. Going to break that down, discuss where that puts the team in terms of seeding, ceiling, seeding floor, and what's to come with these last 5 regular season games and beyond. John, how you doing?
Good, man. Was worried about that Wichita State game. We talked about it, last time we did the podcast. Just because it's a road game, that's a team that didn't necessarily have a ton of games to get up for the rest of the way, and they've been playing better basketball the last few weeks.
Yep.
And even though Memphis should have won that game, they were up 4 in overtime. I mean, the fact that Memphis lost does not really shock me. It doesn't really surprise me because, I figured that the way they had kind of been playing for the most part, they were going to trip up again. And that's what happened. So now the goal is, stop doing that. Stop tripping up.
Yeah, and that's the tough part, right? You talk about the way they've been playing, kind of playing with fire, so to speak, with these teams that, are not as good as them, but put way much more emotional stock and investment into the matchups because they get a crack at a team like Memphis once a season, right? So it's like they're putting all their eggs in that basket. Shouldn't the Tigers kind of be grown out of this by this point? Like, it's February 19th, right? And we're still talking about, can this team snap out of it? Can this team play to the level it's capable of on an every game basis? At what point do they start doing that, or will they just not? And is this the reality of the rest of the season through this final stretch?
I mean, I think what really ends up happening a lot of the time is that it's just this team allows itself to get dragged down, by its competition, and I know the stat is Memphis has more quad 3 losses than any team in the top 25, top whatever, right?
Right.
But that's because Memphis plays nothing but quad 3 games.
Right.
That's all they play. So if Kentucky played nothing but quad 3 games, they're going to have some quad 3 losses. I promise you. Just because you're not going to go undefeated, bro. You're going to have to like here's what these teams in the Power League don't have to do, okay? They don't have to, in February, go to a quad 3 team on the road that's out of the tournament discussion, that has literally nothing else to play for, okay? That has no pressure whatsoever. They don't have to go there. They don't have to go in there as 8.5-point favorites and figure out a way to come out alive and survive. They're going in. We're talking about college kids, bro, at the end of the day. You know what I mean? We're talking about college kids. And it is psychological. It is motivational. It is all about positioning. And Memphis is having to go. I mean, Memphis hasn't been an underdog since when? Auburn?
Since I think that's correct. I got to go back and look.
I mean, I think that I take that back. Clemson
on the road. Yeah, they had to be underdogs. I think it was like 1.5-point underdog, something like that.
And they might have been weirdly, an underdog against Mississippi State. I think that's the last time.
Gotcha.
So
either way, it's been a while, right? It's been a long time.
Yeah, they haven't been underdogs since the 21st of December, bro. Okay. So, and they're not going to be. I mean, UAB will be interesting. Because I know Ken Palm's got that 5, but I think it'll probably end up being like a pick 'em, around there. So, dude, that's tough. That's like Duke loses on the road in their conference to a respectable team like Clemson, I mean, that's just what Memphis did. Memphis just lost to a team.
There's no way you're comparing.
I'm not saying that's Clemson. I'm just saying you lose on the road in conference. It happens. It doesn't matter who it is, okay? Now, Duke's not losing on the road at Syracuse. Correct. You're right.
No.
That is true. But they only have a couple of those a year. Memphis has 19 of them.
Yeah, it's just
18 of them.
there's more landmines, right? So there's more chances of getting blown up. It's just, probabilities we're talking about.
Exactly, bro. So that's the part of it that I'm like, I'm very sympathetic to. Look, we can nitpick and we can talk about, how it shouldn't have happened and how, Dane and all that's valid, right? All that's valid. But at the end of the day, it's still just 2 conference losses. It's hard for me to get too outraged when we're in February, almost March, and the Tigers are sitting here with 2 conference losses. Because I've seen, and you've seen, it be a lot worse than that.
I mean, dude, last year it was a lot worse than that, obviously. And even 2 years ago, obviously the league was much stronger, but I think that team went I want to say 13-5, the one with Kendrick and DeAndre. I can't recall, but it was something like that, right?
Let's see. I have KenPom in front of me right now. They were 13-5. Good call. 13-5 in conference. Now that was with 2 losses to Houston.
Lost to Houston, I think 1 to Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But the point being, like, yeah, you're right. Like, no matter what league you play in, you can play in any Division I league almost in America, and most teams are going to lose at least 1 or 2. It's just the nature of the beast. It's college basketball. I think where I push back on just the overall theory of it's out of Memphis' control is the fact that they haven't controlled the controllables. And I wrote about this in my story after the Wichita State game, after I spoke to Penny Hardaway and spoke to Tyrese Hunter and Nicholas Jourdain. Just the fact that I know people roll their eyes, right? I know people say, oh, computers don't know basketball and metrics and this and that and that. But they've had chances to control their own destiny a little bit, right? Or at least buy some leeway. And how do you buy leeway? You take care of teams that you're supposed to take care of, and you do it convincingly. And you get to a point in the metrics where you're not in the 40s, right? You're more so in the 20s or the 30s even. And then all of a sudden, okay, you can take a loss like Wichita State, and it's not going to drop you, what do we see? 2 seed lines in certain places, 3 seed lines, according to Jerry Palm, which is crazy. It's just, it buys you more rope, and Memphis has not done itself any favors, in my opinion. That's all.
Well, they haven't. But the problem becomes is that, there's no room to do yourself anything in this league. Like, I mean, where are the favors to do yourself?
I mean, don't beat, the likes of ECU by 4, right?
Like, we could certainly nitpick.
That's what I'm pointing to. Yeah,
we could nitpick the outcomes, but they did beat South Florida by 15. That wasn't enough.
No, I mean, it was good. It was good. It looked good.
But they didn't budge.
No, they didn't. They didn't.
So, okay, so that's what I wrote that last week before they lost to Wichita State, is that if even a road win by 15, and it was bigger than that, they had like pushed it to 20 at one point. If even that margin isn't enough, you got a problem. You got a problem, because I don't care who it is, bro. I mean, Gonzaga is not winning every game in its league by 20, right? St. Mary's is I'll give St. Mary's this. They do tend to run it up, but single digit home win against Santa Clara, lost to San Francisco, single digit win against Gonzaga, single digit win against Washington State. I mean, now again, St. Mary's has done what Memphis has not, and I will say that is a key distinction. These 200 level teams, Pacific, Pepperdine, Portland, Pepperdine again, they win by. But these teams are in the bottom of the 200s. Okay, like 273, 289, 296.
That's just like Rice and struggled though. I'm not. Once again, I know we're nitpicking here. I'm just saying, like.
Yeah, but even Rice is 181.
Fair.
I mean, they're not in the 200s.
No, not quite. No,
South Florida's in the 200s. Charlotte's in the 200s. I mean, look, yes, but it's there, it's so, and we know that Charlotte win was better than 9 points. They were winning by 19 with 4 left. Yeah. So, I mean, and Charlotte's playing right now. They're leading Temple at home,
That's crazy.
So I don't know. I think it's a little wackiness, but Memphis is going to be susceptible to wackiness, man. That's who they are.
No, and it's tough. And I think it's especially tough because and I know the expectation was going into the season, like, hey, just get back to the tournament, right? And everybody's happy, hurrah. And I'm sure most people will still be happy. You're back in the tournament. I see you laughing. But they kind of teased fans, right? They kind of teased media, like in terms of they showed their potential from November through December, and looked at times every bit the part of a top four seed. Obviously, that's gone, right? You can't get a top four seed anymore.
That's right.
They weren't one of the 16 top overall seeds by the committee on Saturday's reveal on CBS, and they weren't even the next two out. So at best, they would have been 19. That's before the Wichita State loss, right? So now you're looking at least a 6 seed. Most places have them as a 7. I think bracket matrix, you look at that, their consensus 7. Where does that kind of put them? Like, what's the best case scenario? And the best case obviously would be you win these next 5 and you win the conference tournament in Fort Worth. That's what, 8, you rattle off the next 8 before Selection Sunday. Where would that put Memphis?
6.
I think so. I'm with you.
I mean, I don't think you're getting a 5. That's top 20. I mean, your metrics just aren't good enough, right? So I think, for the most part, you're kind of done for in that discussion because, and I had to explain this to people, like Memphis fans, I love them. Okay, I do. They're my audience. They're my people.
Yeah.
They don't really understand because I get it. They don't really understand the metric piece of it because they're like, well, just win, and it's not that simple.
Yeah,
it's not that simple because I explained to people they won 8 in a row after they lost to Temple, right? Yeah. They dropped 7 spots after that 8-game win streak than the day after they lost to Temple.
It's because they looked kind of bad in certain.
But the point is they're winning, right? They won 8 in a row,
right?
But it pokes a massive hole in the idea of just win. No. It's not just win in this league because wins and losses in college basketball are not created equally. They just are not. This is not football where highest ranked, you just hope for a loss from this team, and it's not that. You're graded, okay, on your wins. Every win is not just an A because you win. There might be a C win. There might be a D win.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Memphis has won games and dropped. So
exactly.
The metrics just aren't there. Parth is the long and short of it. So I think 6 is the best you can hope for, and if you lose again, you're probably 7 at best.
Depends who's lost, right? You take that UAB loss, a quad 2, then you're maybe the worst. I think you're still out of the 6.
Yeah, I think you're a 7 if you lose to UAB. Anything over that, anything more than that, you're 8-9. You're 8-9 for sure.
How disappointing and how tough would that be? Not only for the fan base, but think about Penny Hardaway and that staff for them to stomach that, right? Like you go through November and December, and you outwardly state to the media pretty much every chance you get, hey, we're in this business for a top 4 seed. We're not playing the 8-9 game anymore. We're going to get a top 4 seed, and it looks like it's very much possible, very much feasible.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you take care of business largely, but these small slip ups, like you said, it's only 2 conference losses, right? And if they lose 2 more, it'd be 4, which is not ideal, but in the grand scheme, it's still, you're still a 7-loss team in the grand scheme.
You're a 7-loss team with that non-conference schedule is. Before the season, I said that's unbelievable. How did you do it?
Exactly.
I would have thought if you got 13 non-conference games, I had them with 6. Before the season started.
Yeah.
So I just said, damn, you only lose 1 game in conference. That's really impressive. Yeah, that's the travesty of this league, man. Nothing about this season has been disappointing. Nothing.
No.
Okay.
No.
It's all been to the good. It's all been overachievement. You're going to win the league, barring an absolutely ridiculous 2% collapse, right? That's happening. But the reality of the league you're in is just that it is unforgiving. It is unforgiving to lose. It is unforgiving to win by not enough. It's just a terrible experience in any way you cut it, other than winning by 30, and that just doesn't happen routinely in college basketball.
No doubt. And I guess I'll ask you this: wins and losses are one thing, but the way Memphis performed in the Wichita State game, is there anything that you saw that kind of gave you concern about certain issues, whether it be rebounding or, inability to stop the pick and roll or whatever it may be, that would give you.
I think the biggest problem with Memphis, I think the biggest problem with Memphis this year has just been that defensively, like they don't feel elite. They feel good, but they don't feel elite. And they were playing matchup zone a little bit against Wichita, and I don't know if that was the best idea because it did. It happens like quite a bit. Like Memphis leaves shooters,
Yeah.
Like shooters do get looks against Memphis's defense, and I'm not saying Wichita has shooters necessarily, but like
obviously not. You saw they shot the ball that game. Yeah,
it makes it. Cortez hit the three right and it was a contested shot. It was a crazy shot that he doesn't usually make. But I don't know. I think it was, Memphis played well offensively. They had 22 assists. They shot 39% from three. Yeah. I just think it shows you that when PJ Haggerty has games where he's not on, this team is going to struggle to win.
Yeah, and I think he was like 4 of 18.
Yeah.
Obviously, the image that's burned into people's minds is that last shot of regulation where he gives the ball up to Colby Rogers, and then he's got a defender draped.
I'm not sure what the plan was on that play, but
get that ball back,
Yeah, that was Colby wanted that game winner back at Wichita. You could tell, but that's not who the play was for, of course.
No, and Penny said that's not who the play was for. And obviously, I'm sure you saw or heard or whatever Penny's comments during his radio show Monday, kind of taking full responsibility for that sequence, talking about, during that free throw, during the 2 free throws that Wichita State shot to tie that game at 71, he spoke to PJ Haggerty and said, hey, man, I'm not calling a timeout. Whether it's make or miss, you go get that ball and make something happen. And he said, okay, only for then what to happen. Seconds later, Penny kind of starts to panic a little bit. PJ Haggerty's not getting open as quickly as he would have liked him to. He's worried about a 5-second violation, so he calls timeout. And then in the huddle, kind of confusion ensues, right? Like Penny calls a play that is for PJ Haggerty. To his own admission, he complicates matters more than they should have been. It should have just been, hey, give the ball to PJ, get the hell out of the way. That wasn't what happened. He drew up something only to then scrap it last minute and then draw something else up at the last minute. And the result was what we kind of saw unfold, after that next inbounds, where Tyrese Hunter inbounds to PJ Haggerty. Haggerty crosses half court, gives it to Rogers, expecting to get it right back, but he's got a defender draped all over him. There's so much time wasted. There's dribble, and seconds are ticking off the clock before Colby Rogers does obviously what is textbook basketball you're not supposed to do is go into a corner, because now you got the corner defending you as well as the defender in front of you. And it just wasn't an ideal situation. So a lot of stuff obviously went wrong. It seemed like everything that was going to go wrong in terms of late game execution for Memphis did. And that's kind of how it wound up. Moving forward, what's your best guess here before we get to Fort Worth? You got 5 games left, starting with Florida Atlantic on Sunday. Is Memphis gonna take care of business? Is it gonna run the table in these next 5, or is there gonna be a stubbing of the toe again?
Yeah, 4-1 feels safe.
Rough, man. For seeding, it'd be rough. We just talked.
It's hard for me to say 5-0 though, because it's not like they've just been running roughshod, right? UAB, like that's going to be UAB's game of the year, right?
Yeah.
It's not a spot historically that is super kind to the team that's coming in, with the victory already in the series, and is comfortable, right? They're in the tournament, so. Yeah, I don't know if 5-0 is attainable. I do think they can win at UAB. They beat the crap out of them here in Memphis. Memphis does get up for those kinds of games as well. Like, make no mistake. But I think 4-1 is going to be my official prediction here. And Memphis finishes the season with 3 conference losses, but obviously that's enough to win the league.
Okay, so if they were to do that, which I think is also likely, 4-1, it'd be obviously unfortunate for the reasons we said earlier, because of what it does to your resume and seeding and all that. But if they were to go 4-1, let's say that loss comes at UAB, it's a quad 2 loss, it's not the end of the world. Then you go to Fort Worth and you take care of business on Friday, Saturday, Sunday of that second weekend of March, and you win you not only win the regular season title, but you win the conference tournament title. Is that still? Are you still?
That's 7.
Okay, I was gonna say, is that still back at 8-9? You're saying
because the committee doesn't want they don't pay attention to the AAC title game. They don't care.
No. I guess what I'm asking is the UAB loss which would be the third loss, obviously, in league play. Is that just enough to kind of cement yourself, etch yourself if you're Memphis into the 8-9 game, no matter what happens in Fort Worth?
No, I think they would probably be between like last 7, first 8.
I got you. I agree. Actually,
and if they, win two games in the 8, like you could, with a little bit of help, you could be back on that 7-10 line. I wouldn't say they're doomed to 8-9, but I mean, again, you're flirting very closely with it. So,
yeah, no, that's crazy.
I mean, if you're a University of Memphis administrator and you don't look at this season and think to yourself every night before you go to sleep that we have got to get out of this league, then you're not paying attention, because this league hurts you and damages you every day you're in it.
No, it's a tough existence, as you've written about several times, obviously, throughout this season.
And we'll continue to do.
And we'll continue to do.
I will never stop.
Bang that drum, man. I'm sure Tiger Nation appreciates it. Man, something else that kind of stuck out, or that has stuck out to me, not that his game has just fallen off a cliff or anything like that, but PJ Haggerty obviously went 4 of 18 that game. If you look at Ken Palm's Player of the Year rankings, and you look at just kind of the narrative, right, by guys like John Rodstein and others, national voices in the sport, he's not in that conversation anymore. That first conversation. Right. Is that just as simple as, hey, man, he's tired, right? Like, he's played 36 plus minutes every single night? Or is it teams are catching on to what he's doing? Is he not getting the whistle? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think he has carried a, massive workload, for the majority of the season. I mean, that for a lot of, he's number 1 and number 2. I mean, Tyrese Hunter certainly is nice to have there, but I mean, yeah, especially with that minute, with the usage, I mean, it's just insane. So that's why, I think this week might be good. They get the whole week, you get to relax a little bit, get some rest. Sunday, come out against Florida Atlantic and do again what you did to them in Boca. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a vintage, early season PJ Haggerty performance on Sunday.
And that's the thing about these Tigers, and Penny mentioned it on his radio show. Penny mentioned it to the media, to us in Wichita, just kind of pointing to the fact that, hey, when this team's been down before, right? Arkansas State comes to mind. What did they do? They beat Clemson. What else comes to mind? You talk about Mississippi State. What did they do? They came back from the holiday break, laser focused, and blew the doors off Ole Miss. A good Ole Miss team at that.
Yeah.
They lost to Temple. They rattled off 8 straight. So in this kind of spot where this team's been kicked, right, where the conversation's been, hey, this is disappointing, and are we back to the 8-9 or whatever it may be, that kind of narrative, that chirping going on by people like you and I, like, this team has answered the bell. And you're right. It'll be interesting to see what happens on Sunday, if that can be the start of another streak, and if that can be really the start of saving this team from that 8-9 spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a world where that loss is good for them in some ways, like re-engages them a little bit, because you're just kind of bored, right? You're just kind of sleepwalking through the league. So yeah, now you're like, oh, it's like smelling salts, you kind of put the smelling salts in your nose, you wake back up, oh, okay, I'm good. So I could see this being, having an impact quite like that one. So let's hope that that's the case, and that Memphis can, finish strong going into the tournament.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait to find out. Starting Sunday at 1 p.m. against Florida Atlantic, it'll be interesting to see. That game's on ESPN too, and I'm looking forward to being there and looking forward to seeing how this thing plays out the rest of the way. That is all the time we have today, though. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks, John, for joining us as always, and we will holler at y'all next week.